Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to perform the CRUD operations in PostgreSQL database with the help of Spring Boot. So I'll be showing you how to post data, fetch all data, fetch by ID, update, delete, as well as posting a list of JSON. So the prerequisite for this video is going to be you must have IntelliJ, Java as well as PGAdmin installed on your system. If you don't have PG4admin, you can just click on the card that is appearing on top. If you are fine, let's get started with the tutorial. Just Google Spring Initializer, you'll be getting the first link. Click that. And here we need to configure the dependencies and other properties that we want to add in our project. So I am fine with Gradle Groovy, Spring Boot version, and I don't even know how to change the name. If you want, you can just change the name of the project or something. I'm fine. I will go with Java 21. And next, here we will be adding some dependencies. So click that. The first one is going to be Spring Web, which is used to create the REST APIs. And the next one is going to be Spring Data JPA. And since we are using PostgreSQL, we need the PostgreSQL driver. And the final one is going to be Lombok. So we will be requiring to use the getters and setters. So by using Lombok, we can avoid the template or boilerplate code. Okay. So these are the four things, and just click on generate. So it will be getting downloaded as a zip file, and go to your downloads and just unzip it. That's it. So if you go inside that, basically you will be having the necessary code inside it automatically created for you. Now just open IntelliJ IDEA and click on open. Go to your downloads. You need to go into that folder, the demo folder that you have extracted now. Click on OK. Trust project. So you'll be having source folder, or expand it, main, Java, and we'll be having our demo application. So I just set up SDK, and yeah, so it'll take some time to index, so just be patient till then. So once everything is done, let's begin with our code. Okay, so first thing is we will be making an connection with our PostgreSQL database. So for doing that, you'll be having the main resources application.properties. So here we need to add few properties which enables us to connect with PostgreSQL database. It's going to be spring.datasource.url, and here we need to specify our localhost path of which PostgreSQL is running. So it's going to be jdbc colon postgresql colon / localhost. By default, PostgreSQL runs on the port number 5432 / and here you need to specify that, okay, it's SQL. I left a yes here. Yeah, so to be careful, if you make even a small mistake over here, you won't be able to connect it. And here we need to specify our database name. So go to PostgreSQL PG4admin. You'll be having the databases. Okay, right click, create database, and just name a database. It's going to be demo post, and this is going to be the username. Okay, Postgres, this is the username. So just save it, and I've got the demo post created, and it's currently empty. It doesn't even have any tables inside it, so that's fine. And just specify the name here, demo post. That's it. And next is going to be the username and password. So copy this. It's going to be username Postgres. That's a username we saw earlier. Dot password. So this is going to be user specific. You need to specify the password that you had over there in the Postgres database. And final thing is going to be spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl -auto equal to update. So this is also necessary. This basically helps us to reflect all the changes that we make in our code immediately into the PostgreSQL table and column. So it's also good to have this. So just type this out first. Once you are done setting these up, the next thing is going to be we will be creating our entity. So we will write the model for the table in our code, and if we run that, the table will be automatically created in our demo post database. So that's how we can verify our connection is successful. So for doing that, again go into the Java folder, and you'll be having the example.demo. Here right click on new. It's going to be a Java class, and let me just name the table as person, or the class name as person. This is fine. And next is going to be the columns. So you need to specify what are the columns that are going to be present in our table. So it's going to be private long ID, and it's going to be private string name. I think I'm good with this too for now. And you also need to annotate the person with @entity. So through this annotation, we are specifying that this class corresponds to a table in demo post database. Alright, and next is going to be the data annotation from Lombok. So we need to add getters and setters. So set the value for this ID and name. That can be avoided by using Lombok, the data annotation from Lombok. That's it, this is fine. And next we need to add a primary key. Okay, so that's going to be done with the help of ID. So this specifies that this long ID is the primary key. Okay, and you need to import it from jakarta.persistence. Okay, the ID should come from here, and you can also have a generated value. So this is basically like, auto increments. We have some things. I will just go with a random one. Strategy equal to generation type dot identity. Yeah, this is fine. Just auto increments the value, to be honest. Yeah, so these are fine for now. So in case if you don't specify a table name, it will automatically take the name of the class as the table name in PostgreSQL database. So for specifying a custom table name, you can just add the table annotation, and it's going to be name equal to, here we can specify the table name. I'll just go with table underscore 1. This is going to be my table name. So this is good. Now we are done with our entity code, and final thing is going to be the repository. So repository is basically a piece of code that connects our table to the PostgreSQL. Okay, so through the repository only we will be able to perform the insert, update, delete operations, the object of a repository class. Okay, so now let's just go here, right click new and Java class, and repository is going to be of type interface. Okay, and let's just name it. It's going to be person repo, and we have got it. Now we need to extend, and we need to link our person class to the repository. So it's going to be JPA repository, the first one, and here we need to specify two parameters. First is going to be the class name, which is person in our case. So just type person and comma the data type of the primary key. So the data type is going to be long because ID is the primary key of our table. So it's going to be long over here. So that's pretty much the code. If you want to perform insert or update operation, you need to create a service. But since this video only covers the connection, we are just fine with this now. So now if I go to PostgreSQL and my demo post, now you can see I'm not having here any tables. So after we run this code, and if there aren't any errors, and if the connection is successful, we'll be getting a table automatically created. So that's a live proof of our connection is successful. Okay, so now for running this, you need to go to demo application, the main file, and we just need to run this and run. And now you can see I'm not getting any errors, which means that our connection is perfectly done. And the port number 8080 is the default port on which Spring Boot runs. And if you are getting any errors over here, you must check your application properties. You must have made some mistakes over here. So now if I go to pg4 admin and the database demo post, and if I just right click the tables and refresh it, and here you can see we're having a table underscore 1, and the name directly corresponds to the name that we have given over here for our entity class. And if they expand this columns, we are having two columns, one is ID and name. So we have got the necessary columns also created and the table also created, which means that we have successfully connected our Spring Boot to our PostgreSQL database. And now we are done creating the table in our database, and I've also added another column named as email. So I just went to our model and I added a email. So you can just have how much ever you want over here. And now the only thing that we need to do is add a custom path. So what I meant by path is that this particular thing, the URL, the /add post or something like that. So for that we will be requiring a controller, and you can just go here and again go to new Java class, and you can just name it as person controller, and you can just have a separate folders for controllers. Since this is just a demo, I'm just putting it everything inside our project folder. Okay, so it's going to be person controller, and we are also going to have an annotation as rest controller, just to make sure that we will be defining our paths over here. And next we will be creating our function, so it's going to be public, and I'm just going to have the return type as void. I'm not going to return anything. Void create person, this is going to be the function name, and we are going to get the values from postman. So this is the postman, we'll be sending all the information from our request body. Okay, so it's going to be at request body, and let me just have it as person, the class name, this is the class name, and person with a small p, this is the variable name. This can be anything, but we need to put the class name over here, which is the model that we have created here. And next we need to define a path, so it's going to be at, since this is a post operation, we'll be using post mapping, and I'll just have the path as /add person. That's it. So I'll just copy this path now and put it over here. So how this works is that if I hit this particular request from this path, these values, okay, these values will be caught by this variable person. So that's the reason why we are specifying it as request body, because it comes from the request. So that's how it works. So this person will have all the values that we send from our postman. And final thing that we need to do is, we are having the values that we send, we need to just save these value in our table. So for doing that, we will be making use of the repository. We'll be making use of the repository object. So just come here, and it's going to be private. The name of our repository is called as person repo. Let's create a variable, and you need to add the auto wired annotation. If you don't use this annotation, you need to create a constructor and assign the value manually. So to avoid that, you can just use auto wired for dependency injection. Okay, and here it's going to be person repo dot save, and within this you can just specify the person. That's it. This value will be specified over here. So with the help of this code, this will basically save the value that we sent from our postman in our table. That's what this code does. And you can even have a service or like a separate function also, and you can call that function over here. So this is just a one line of code, so that's why I'm hard coding this inside the controller itself. So it's a void, so we aren't going to return anything. So this is fine now. Let me just run it. The application has started now, and this is the default port that it starts, 8080. So now you need to go to postman, clear this, and this is going to be the path. Okay, it's going to be http://localhost:8080, the port number that we saw earlier, and you need to add this /add person path here. Next important thing, the operation, this is a post operation, so we need to change this to post. It will be by default in none. You need to click on body, and it will be none by default. Click on raw, and you need to change this from text to JSON, and you need to specify the values over here, which is name and email within double quotes, and this should be also within double quotes. So here we are giving the ID as auto generated value, and that's the reason why we aren't passing the ID over here. And in case if you are having a number, you don't need to have double quotes for a number. Okay, so once you're done with this, let me just send it. Yeah, we are getting the status as 200, which means that it's perfect. So now if you go to our PostgreSQL database and click on the table name and just refresh it first, and after that right click and go to view edit data and all rows, and here you can see we're getting the ID as 1, and we're also having the email and the name, which those are just like random values that I sent. And if you want to put it again, send, and just run the query. You can run the query by here also. Here you can see the ID has been auto generated, and we are getting the values over here. And what if you wanted to have some response over here? Like what if you want to get back the data which is posted over there as a response. So for that, what we can do is again go to your code, to controller, and rather than having it as void, you can just have it as response entity, and inside that you need to pass the class name, and it's going to be return response entity dot OK, and we need to pass the response. So we need to get the response first, so it's going to be person response equal to response. So this will basically return the row itself. This will basically just return this row, and we'll be getting the response in our output. So this value that we are sending over here will directly come in the response, not rocket science. That's the same thing. Okay, if you just run this again, and if I just send this, here you can see I'm getting the response with the ID. So that row which has been newly added will be just returned in the response. If you just add this is up to you. If you want to keep it as void, you can just keep it, and if you want to return a string, you can just change the return type to string, and you can just return a random string of your choice. So now let's begin with the get operation. So first we'll be starting by creating a function. It's going to be public space, and here we will return a list of object of person. So this is my table. Okay, so we will be returning entire thing in a form of list. So it will be something like this. So it will be like comma this one, but inside a list. So this is the response data that we will be getting from the table. So this is an object of person, this is an object of person, but since it is present in a list, we will be putting here list of our class name, which is person. Okay, so it's going to be list of person. Next is going to be the function name. You can just have in, you just need to import this, and it's going to be get all person, and we aren't going to pass any parameters, just a fetch all operation there. And next, as I told you, we will be getting a list of person. Just have a variable person list equal to our repository name, which is person repo. It's going to be person repo, the variable name, and dot find all. So this will fetch the entire data from the table, and final thing is the return keyword, return person list. So that's pretty much it, and we need to specify the path over here. So it's going to be at get mapping, and I'll just go with fetch all. That's it. Copy the path and just rerun the application. That's it. Application has started. Port 8080, go to postman, and you're just going to go to none. We aren't going to pass any data, and this operation should be changed from post to get, and also change the path. Okay, and now in the response, as I told you earlier, we will be getting list of many objects like this. So just send it, and here you can see this is the list of objects. So if there's a list, this is one person object, another person object, another person object, and here we will be adding the code for our fetch by ID also. So I'll just come here. It's going to be public, and the return type is going to be person, because here we will be returning only one object. We won't be returning like list of object like fetch all. So if I give the ID as 5, I'll be getting this fifth row. So that's a object of a class person, so only one. So we have to just have the person or the class name that you have specified there, and it's going to be get person, and here we will be passing the ID. So we will get the ID from the path. So I'll be giving that from the URL here. So for that, you have to define the path first. It's going to be at get mapping, and just have a slash fetch by ID slash curly bracket. You have to specify the variable over here. So this can be anything. I'm just specifying it as ID. And next in the function, it's going to be at path variable. So you have to use this annotation long ID. So you have to just have this,
and next is going to be person. So basically we will be getting the object from the table person equal to person repository, the variable dot find by id. We need to pass the id that we're getting from the path, so or null. So in case if you are putting any id which isn't in the table, we need to just put null over here. So if the id is present, the data from the table will be displayed, else null will be returned. Simple. And final thing is return person. That's the code, guys. So simple. And just rerun the application now. Yeah, the application has now started, and you can just copy this path, go here. You need to have the operation as get, and you need to put none for the body, and this is going to be the path. Just change this to id, and rather than having here id, you need to pass a number. So in my database table I'm having numbers from 1 to 5. I'll just go with 3 for this purpose. So I'll just go here with 3. If I send it, and here you can see I'm getting the id, name and email from the row 3. So if I go with some random number and send it, I won't be getting anything because it is null, that isn't present in a table. So now let's begin with our update operation. So for the update operation, I will be passing the id which is to be updated from the URL and the name and email from the request body. So we'll be using the path variable as well as the request body annotations over here. So let's begin coding now. So it's going to be public, and the return type is going to be person because I'll be returning the object or the row after getting updated with the new value. So I'll be just returning that. It's going to be person and update person. That's going to be the name of the function. And let me have the path. So the path is going to be put mapping, since it is an update operation, and you can just have it as update slash. As I told you, we will be passing the id from the URL itself, so just put the variable inside curly brackets, and inside the function it's going to be path variable long, since the id is of type long, id comma, and we'll be getting the name as well as the email from the request body. So you need to have here the request body annotation space of type person, which is our model, and the name of the variable is going to be person. That's it. Now we are good over here. And now first thing what we need to do is we must check if our id is present in our table or not. If the id is present in the table, it's fine, we'll be fetching the entire row. If the id is not present in the table, we will just return null. No update operation will be taking place, and the API call will be done and dusted. So that's the first condition, checking whether that particular id is a valid id or not, which means it is present in our table or not. So if it's present, just return the object. That's it. So it's going to be person model name. It's going to be existing data equal to our repository name, which is person repo, this object that I have created, person repo dot find by id. So it's going to be find by id. We'll be passing the id that we have passed in the URL. This is a path variable id, or else null. So what this statement means is that if the id is present, you can just get the data from the table, you can return an object. If the id isn't present, you can just return null. So if I am sending a data like 10 is not present here, in that case our existing data variable will have the value as null. So that's the logic over here. So if our existing data is not equal to null, we will perform the update logic, but if it is null, it will go to the else block, and in the else block we will just return null. That's it. So if this is null, if the id is not present, direct returning null, no update operation will take place. So if it is not null, we will decide the update logic now. So first thing, we will be setting the name and the email in this existing data. So for that, it's going to be existing data dot set name. We don't have to set the ID because ID is the same. It's going to be the person, just okay, or else you can just have this as updated data. Yeah, updated data. So the data that I'm getting from the postman is going to be called as the update data. So you can just put it here, update data dot get name, and the next line, existing data dot set email. It's going to be updated data get email. So this is basically the code. So now let me just explain how this works. So in the postman, I'll be sending the just raw and just yeah, I'll be sending the name and email which is to be updated for a particular ID, right? So these values will be caught by this variable updated data, and I'm getting the name and the email. So these two lines, these two get corresponds to this value that I'm sending from the request body, and I'm just setting it to the existing data that is present in the table. So by this set operation, what happens is that the value that I'm sending from the postman will replace the value that is present in the existing table. So that's why here we are getting the value from the object of the updated data, and then we are setting it here into that object, that the existing data object. And final thing is we need to save that. So this just sets the value. We need to save it, right? We need to make sure that make sure to the Spring Boot that we are saving this data in our database. Okay. So for that we'll be using the save operation. So it's going to be again the repository object person repo dot save. It's going to be existing data. So just overrides the name and email for that ID already present. And once you're done with this, you can also return the existing data. But this existing data will have the updated values because here we are setting the name and email. So this is pretty much the code, guys. So simple. First we are getting the ID as well as the data, name and email, which is to be updated, checking whether the ID is present or not. If the ID is present, well and good, we are getting the data. If the ID is not present, we are returning null. And if it is null, we are just returning null. No updation will take place. If it is not null, we are setting the name and email from the name and email that we have passed from postman, and then saving it and then returning the data. As simple as that. So let me just now rerun the code. Yeah, the application has started. So in my DB I'm having the ID 1. I will go with ID 1. I'm having this some random value, and we have to make some changes to the postman also in postman. So go to postman, and here we need to change the operation from get or whatever it is to put, and you need to just copy this. Basically go here and just replace this. You need to have this path, and I'm going to modify the ID 1 in my table. And next one is you need to go to body. It will be none by default, I guess. You need to go to raw, change the type from text to JSON, and you need to type this out. So this depends upon your use case, and if you have some other named column, change it. And I will just go with some random name, update name, update em, something totally random. And if I send this now, I'll be getting the ID 1, but the name and email will be the new updated name and email that I'm giving over here. So if I just send it, here you can see in the response I'm getting 200, and this is the updated name and email. So everything is fine. And now if I go to my PostgreSQL database table, so we are having the old values. So if I just refresh it or run the query again, here you can see the name has been updated and the email also has been updated. So now let's begin with the delete operation. So it's going to be public, just define the function, and it's going to be of type void. I'm not going to return anything, and let me name it as delete person. That's it. And we need to have the path. So it's going to be delete mapping, and the path is going to be slash delete. Let me just have it as slash delete, and within curly bracket I'll be putting here ID. So I'll be passing the ID in the URL, something like this. So that's what I'm going to do. And we need to have here at path variable to access this ID value from the URL. It's going to be long ID. That's it. And inside the code, what we will do is we'll be making use of the object of the repository, which is person repo. It's going to be here person repo dot delete by id. That's it. So we don't need to have any condition or check over here. If the id is present in the table, the entire row gets deleted, and if the id is not present, nothing happens. So it has already the logic taken care of if we pass some invalid id. So let me just rerun it, and we can just copy the path, and the application has started. Yeah, all go to here. So just go to postman, and you need to change the operation to delete and put the path over here, and you can just have the body as none because we don't need to have any request data. So just put it as none, and now we are good. Now we need to just replace the id. So I am having here 4 IDs from numbers 1 to 4. Let me go with 4, and if I send it, status 200. If I go to my PostgreSQL table and rerun the query, here you can see the row 4 has been deleted. And if I put some other invalid number, let me go with 300 something and send it, still I'm getting 200. Okay, but in my table nothing would have got deleted. I'm just having the 3 rows.
And the post by list or id is going to be exactly same like posting a particular object. The only thing is here we will be passing a list of object. That's the only difference. Okay, so just go to the controller and let's begin the code with our function public, and the return type is going to be list of person or list of object. So whatever the object that is getting inserted will be returned. It's going to be add list. That's going to be my function name, and here I will be getting the list from postman, from postman's request. Okay, I'll be getting a list over here. So it's going to be at request body list of person, just a random name. You can have it as person list, that's fine. And inside this we'll be using our repo. It's going to be, the repository name is person repo. Okay, the object of the repository, person repo dot, we'll be using the save all function. So for a single object we can use save, and for multiple objects it's going to be save all, and we will be just passing the person list inside this. And we need to return, so we can just return this. That's it. So this basically will return the newly added objects from the postman. So this just returns that. So that's basically the code, and of course we need to add the path. It's going to be post mapping, and we can just have it as slash add all, something like this. And let me just run my program. So that's the code, guys. So now let's go to postman and do the remaining stuff. So I'll just copy the path, go to postman, change the path to post, have this http colon localhost 8080, and here we will be having the path. Just add the path that you have specified in your code, and I'm running in port 8080. After that, go to body, it needs to be raw, change this to type json, and in my case I'm going to put only 2 keys, which is going to be name and email, because it has started. Because in my person model here you can see I'm having 3 data members. One is id, name and email, and the reason why I am passing only name and email here is because id gets auto generated. So that's the reason why I am not passing here id in postman. And now since we have started, the table will be here. So if I just now refresh this, the table is here, and we are having the columns and stuff. Now the table will be empty. So I will just go here and view. The table is empty now. Once we post data, we'll be getting the values. So 3 columns, id is auto generated, we'll be passing only name and email. So I will go to postman, and first thing what you need to do is you just need to enclose everything with a square bracket. Okay, enclose this, and inside that have a curly bracket, and within that you need to have your key, which is the variable that you have used in your
column or in the data member. This variable should come here in your entity model. Okay, it comes here. This is the value, the other data member, the value within double quotes. If it's of type long or int, no need of double quotes, just a number. So now I'm just going to mock the values. I'm not going to be like so serious about the values. Comma separated, and you're just going to paste it multiple times. So just remove the last comma. So this is basically a list, and inside the list we are having multiple objects, so which in turn means list of objects. And we have skipped id because id is auto generated. If id is not auto generated in your case, or if you have any other data member, you need to add it over here and send the value also. Alright, so now I will just click on send. Make sure that it's json over here. Send it, and we're getting the status as 200, which means that it's successful, and this is the response that I get. And the reason why we are getting the response is here because this return of save all, and that's the reason why we are getting the id also, because it has posted it, and after posting the data it has returned the newly posted values with the id. As I told you, it's auto generated. And now I'll rerun the exact same query. Here you can see I'm having 5 values, and here also I have sent 5 objects, 1 2 3 4 5. So this is basically how you post a list of objects in PostgreSQL database with the help of Spring Boot. I hope you have found this video useful, guys. Do check the playlist of my channel. Done a lot of videos in programming and AI tools and other CRUD operations in Node.js, Spring Boot, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, MySQL, Gemini AI, OpenAI APIs and AI tools. Subscribe me. Thanks for watching.